an intelligent decision without being properly informed. This is why this world wants to control the media. This is why media hype can take you up, take you down. So you don't know anymore who's really good, because the media can make a wicked man look good and make a good man look evil. That is why.
You're watching the Final Call News Hour. I'm your host, Herman Muhammad, back to give you a Final Call 10 minutes, if you will. This particular edition of the Final Call, we're going to be coming out of volume number 30, issue number 1. And it reads, Blacks, True Children of Israel. Minister Farrakhan reveals Black America's place in prophecy and uncovers Synagogue of Satan. And this particular story appears on page 3 and is written by our beloved brother Ashad Muhammad, who is the assistant editor of the Final Call newspaper. Now, of course, the Final Call newspaper is the most widely circulated Black-owned and operated publication, not only in this country but in the world, and also serves as the communications organ for the Nation of Islam. And the Final Call News Hour is a partner of the Final Call News paper, and what we do is we discuss points, stories in the articles that we believe are particularly relevant to our audience. And we also make sure that we give you alternative views and commentary that you wouldn't ordinarily hear on a traditional news outlet. So, the Final Call News Hour and the Final Call News paper are extremely important. So pick it up, man, and you can pick it up. I'll tell you where to pick it up by the end of the show. And again, this is going to be a brief Final Call News Hour edition, a 10-minute edition, if you will. So let's get right into it. Again, this particular story appears on page 3. Blacks in America, the True Children of Israel. Farrakhan's electrifying message reveals Black destiny and wicked opposition to the rise of the original people. And it's a very, very heavy story. And I just want to touch on a few key points. And Brother Ashad writes, he starts out, the enemies of righteousness have made many forms of evil fair seeming, while sowing seeds of confusion among God's people through racism, materialism, sexism, and ideological differences. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan told a capacity crowd at Mosque Mariam, the international headquarters of the Nation of Islam, on October 3rd. In part 3 of this monumental lecture series, Who Are the Real Children of Israel, Minister Farrakhan asked the overflow crowd to look at the divisions of the human family. God is not the author of confusion. He is the author of peace. To the degree that the world does not have peace, it is because there has been worldwide deviation from that way of life that God desires, he said. So this whole piece, again, like Brother Ashad points out in the article, this is a part 3 of a series of lectures that I encourage each and every one of you to get, and you can pick those lectures up at www.finalcall.com. And of course, the lecture series is entitled Who Are the Real Children of Israel? And Minister Farrakhan lays a case that Black people in America are in fact the true children of Israel. You can take it or you can let it alone. And what I want you to focus on also, just in regards to this, is this book right here, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Volume 2 in particular, because it talks about how Jews gained control of the Black American economy. And this exists to this very day. So there's plenty of proof. And, I've had the book for a couple of months now, and I just began to delve into it. And it's just amazing, the Jewish influence, the Jewish control over the Black economy, beginning in slavery. You would be surprised to know that Jews reigned supreme in regards to the cotton industry, the sugar industry, the tobacco industry, that they owned the majority of the plantations, believe it or not, during slavery. Now, this isn't anti-Semitism, so shut your silly mouth if that's what you want to suggest. Just pick up the book and pick up the latest edition of the Final Call and read for yourself. But you can't dispute the information that is in these publications. So that's a plug for this book, The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, Part 2, and you got Part 1 as well. And that's a plug for this latest edition of the Final Call News Hour, Blacks, True Children of Israel. So pick that up, man. I'm telling you, you will not.
I'm alright, you alright.
You will absolutely not be disappointed. So that's it. The other piece that I wanted to deal with real briefly, man, appears on page 7 of this edition of the Final Call newspaper, and it deals with a young brother who was assaulted by the police in January of 2010, January 13th. Let me give you a taste of what they gave him. And this brother's name is Jordan Miles. This is a picture of what happened to him, and this happened in Pittsburgh. And let me read how our brother Jesse Muhammad, who's a staff writer, writes out of Houston, Texas, starts this story out and give you a few of the details. It says, over 8 months later, no officer has been held accountable for the attack of Jordan Trent Miles, who is still suffering from the physical and psychological pain allegedly caused by 3 white officers smashing his face into an unrecognizable state, according to supporters, family, and the reported victim. And this is what Brother Jordan says happened. He says, initially I thought I was being robbed because they officers jumped out of an unmarked car in plain clothes. Next thing I know, I was being handcuffed, kicked, beat, and had my face bloodied, Mr. Miles, who is black, told the Final Call. Now, this is a very, very interesting story. And again, let me show you a picture of what they did to this young brother. Because here is a young man who's a high school student at the time. He's an honor roll student. He's walking from his home to the store, from the store to his home, either one. And he's accosted by 3 officers. Let me read this part to you. On January 12, 2010, at approximately 11 p.m., Mr. Miles said he was headed to his grandmother's home around the corner from his mother's home when he was suddenly ambushed by white plainclothes police officers. According to Mr. Miles, all 3 men jumped out of the car without identifying themselves and shouted, "Where's the gun? Where's the money? Where's the drugs?" According to the teenager, he ran because he thought he was about to be robbed. I took off running and slipped on the icy ground. That was the last time I was on my feet. I never fought back because I thought I was going to be killed. At this point, I still didn't know these were officers, but they started beating me while smashing my face into the snow. One of the hits came from a metal object, and that's when blood gushed from my head into the snow, said Mr. Miles, who was a senior high school honor roll student at that time. Again, we have to ask ourselves the question, when does this brutality stop? And there's, this is a case, man, that has garnered national attention because of the sheer brutality of the act. But these things are happening time and time and time again. You got Brother Oscar Grant, who was shot at the train station in the back while he was in a prone position. You got this young brother, Jordan Miles, who was beaten damn near to death by rogue police officers just because he fit the description. And then we have another brother here locally. We have Brother Marvin Booker, who was killed by police at the brand new Denver City Jail. Pardon me. Brother who stood at the tremendous height of 5'3", weighed about 135 pounds, was handled by 5, count them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 deputy sheriffs. And what they did with him was they basically jumped on him because he wanted his shoes. That's how the story goes. They jumped on him because the brother wanted his shoes. They put him in a chokehold. They subdue him. Then at the same time they chokehold him, they tase him. They tased the brother while he's in a chokehold under the control of 5 deputy sheriffs. And I don't need to tell you how big most of those deputy sheriffs are. So this is just ridiculousness, man. And it just goes to the point. Let me show you another picture of the Jordan Miles again. And let's do a side by side with our brother Marvin Booker. It just goes to show you, man, the lengths that these people will go through. And let me say something too in regards to this newspaper, the Final Call newspaper, which is the greatest publication on the planet. The Honorable Elijah Muhammad wrote, and he came up, I believe, with the Muslim program, I believe in 1960. I have to get the actual facts, but in what the Muslims want and what the Muslims want and what the Muslims believe. He wrote, let me see, in point number 6 of what the Muslims want. We want an immediate end to the police brutality and mob attacks against the so-called Negro throughout the United States. We believe that the federal government should intercede to see that black men and women tried in white courts receive justice in accordance with the laws of the land, or allow us to build a new nation for ourselves dedicated to justice, freedom, and liberty. And this is in the Final Call newspaper, in every single Final Call newspaper. This is also written in the back of The Message to the Black Man, which is another book authored by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad in 1965. But what I'm saying to you is that this program was written in 1960. That's 50 years ago, and it's still relevant to this very day. So we definitely need to do something about the police brutality and the mob attacks that are being waged against black people day in and day out, because these are ongoing things. Like I said, I mentioned Jordan Miles, I mentioned Marvin Booker, I mentioned Oscar Grant, and then there are hundreds of people who we have not mentioned that time won't permit for us to mention. So we got to get on top of these issues. Now, next week, next coming edition of the Final Call newspaper is dealing with atonement, reconciliation, and responsibility. It's the 15th anniversary of the Million Man March, and I want to take this time to invite all of our brothers and sisters who are out there to come and watch this lecture via webcast at the Respect for Life bookstore, which is at 1440 Iola Street in Aurora, Colorado 80010. For information, you can call 720-544-9306 or 303-956-5899. Come and join us to hear this historic message. It's the 15th anniversary of the Million Man March. We're going to be there again at 1440 Iola Street, and we would love for you to be our honored guest. The doors are going to open at approximately 11 a.m. and the program should begin promptly at 12 noon. So we'd love to have you all out there. Again, this has been a brief 10-minute piece of the Final Call News Hour. We just wanted to get some of that information into your hands, show you what's in the paper and what's coming. Again, pick it up. And you can pick it up again at Respect for Life, 1440 Iola Street, the latest edition of the Final Call newspaper, either one. And you can also come and study with us at that same address. That's where our study group meets under the direction and leadership of our student minister, Brother Corey 2X. So again, man, love you all. Glad you stopped in, checked in on us. Continue to do what you're doing. Remember, if you don't stand for something, you'll fall for anything. Peace, and we out. Keep it black. Keep it strong.
No one can make an intelligent decision without being properly informed. This is why this world wants to control the media. This is why media.
I'll be better. Get some of that bass. You know what I'm saying?
Quaking, body shaking, up attacking, brains are